Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Welcome to this special broadcast on the situation in the Middle East, in particular the Iran-Israel conflict as it is playing out. Now, this has been something that has been brewing for many years, decades. And we need to look at the situation as we see it and then understand the layers, the contours, the granular detail that underpins this. Because politics, particularly international politics, international relations, geopolitics, is not what meets the eye most of the time. So if we look at the most recent situation, Israel went and attacked many strategic targets, weapons, military targets. It took out some of the top military leadership, not the political leadership. It has targeted specific people in the Iranian military. And this echoed, or certainly chimed with what Trump said in this context. I think the words to the effect, some people will not be coming back to this. And the fact that Israel did this, it's not lost on the world that America is, of course, the person, the state in the form of Trump, the current person who is overseeing all of this. So when Israel does this, it was confident that it could get away with it, number one, in terms of the actual operation it launched. And much has been said about the inside operation, i.e. that Israeli agents were within Iran and that they managed to take out certain of the Iranian assets which they wanted to take out. Now, that has to be looked at in the context of what happened in Damascus when Israel bombed diplomatic premises belonging to Iran. The pushback was very little, sadly. And when in Lebanon, we were told by no less than CIA or ex-CIA analysts, when they were basically showing over 100,000 missiles apparently, which Hezbollah had, most of which were not used. Those and the destruction of Hezbollah, which was, of course, an Iranian proxy by Israel, tells us many things. That what we were seeing, Israel had calibrated and calculated that there would not be such a big pushback. Of course, there has been a pushback, and we'll get to that. So they launched the attack. So the aggressor in all of this, of course, on any view, is Israel. It has gone and attacked a sovereign nation on the pretext that it cannot have nuclear weapons. So this is the justification given, that Israel is justified in bombing Iranian facilities because Iran is close to having nuclear weapons. Now, this broken record has been played out over many years, certainly decades, that it's very close to getting weapons. It has echoes, actually, of what was said by the Blair and the Bush coalition about Saddam Hussein being able to launch weapons within 45 minutes. You remember that claim? A false claim, manifestly false claim, which was used to justify the attack on Iraq. And of course, Iraq also features in this, because if you go back 44 years, I think, to the month, June 1981, when Osirak, the Iraqi nuclear reactor, which was being built with French help close to Baghdad, was bombed by F-15 and F-16s flown by Israeli pilots, which overflew Saudi Arabia, certainly when they went and attacked and destroyed Saddam Hussein's nuclear reactor. So this is nothing new, what we've seen in terms of the overflying of Arab Muslim countries to go and attack Iran by the Israelis. And of course, the fact that America would not have known all of this is one for the birds. Quite frankly, it's not something that any serious analyst will take seriously at all. This is something which many say chimes with American foreign policy in the Middle East. And in this context, we'll be looking at the many layers of this, the contours of this discussion. But before that, I'm going to ask my producer to bring on our first guest, because Syria, of course, was next to Israel, and Iran controlled Syria or had a massive influence. And Professor Bowring talked about Khrushchev opening up Tartus, which was their Mediterranean port on the coast. And no attacks took place from Syria while Iran was next to Israel, which is very interesting. Of course, Iran backed the Syrian regime of Hafiz al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad after him. So, of course, Dr. Nizar, I understand you have viewpoints on this in terms of what's taking place. So if I ask you to come forward, and as I said to everyone, all of my contributors want to focus on principles and the politics rather than any sort of overtly sectarian or ethnic viewpoint. So let's take your view quickly, and then I'm going to go to a caller and then come back to the panel. It's getting a little bit crowded, but bear with me, people. We're trying to get as broad as a viewpoint as we can. So, Dr. Nizar, if you can give us your opening thoughts, please.
Sure. Israel actually has made it very clear at the beginning of our revolution in 2011 that Bashar Assad is their man to protect their borders, and they have they have all the benefits of him staying in power because he has been protecting their borders, and his father before him has been protecting their borders since 1967. Actually. At 9 o'clock in the morning on the 10th of June 1967, Hafiz Assad was Ministry of Defense of Syrian regime at that time. Correct. He announced the fall of Quneitra.
In the Golan Heights, you mean?
Whereas actually all the Syrian armies was still, in fact, in reality, in Quneitra. And the nearest Israeli soldiers was about 10 kilometers away. So basically, it was a deal, Quneitra and Golan Heights for instead of presidency. So it was the Golan Heights was in reality sold to Israel for the price that to make Hafiz Assad in power and his dynasty after him. So basically, they've been protecting their borders. The Syrian airspace has never actually had sovereignty under their rule. And once actually, what is actually assuring my words that once Assad has fallen, once Bashar Assad has fallen on December the 8th, 2024, Israel started bombing all the strategic weapons of the Syrian army because they said they are scared of these strategic weapons to fall into the wrong hands. The wrong hands means our free Syrian people hands, because they were trusted in the Bashar Assad hands, whereas they do not trust our free liberated people hands.
Thank you. Thanks for the opening remarks. I want to bring Professor Bowering in, then the caller. Caller, please do hold on. What the caller is saying, and by way of a preface, obviously the French mandate after the First World War was to take over Syria and then Lebanon to create. Those were the two states that the French initially took on board. And of course, things changed. Lots of coups, 1950s and 60s, until the Ba'ath Party came in, I think, 1963. One of you will correct me. And Hafiz al-Assad came in afterwards. So it wasn't it's not an open, it's not a secret that Britain and then America have had massive influence on the political movements in the Middle East. So what the caller is saying, it's an oft-cited report about hypocrisy from the West, but that assumes a benevolence on the part of political leaderships in staunchly ideological Western states, whether it's Britain, France, the United States, in terms of Western states. And of course, the Soviet Union did what it had to do across much of the Central Asian and Eastern European parts of the world. And China is now trying to expand its footprint. So my question to, I'll come back to Jonathan. I think your sound has been sorted out. So when we now look at the Iran-Israel conflict, we're seeing the footage, and of course, this could easily be Gaza over the last 20 months. So when we see outrage, and of course, look, any innocent human being dying anywhere is a tragedy. This is, any sensible, sincere person will do that, because all blood is red and all human beings feel pain. And, rubble falling on your head or a 2-ton missile don't differentiate between faith and creed or anything, in terms of ethnicity. Yet the West selective outrage, that's what the previous caller was talking about, red large hypocrisy, about certain suffering being more worthy of a response than others, in particular in relation to Syria. How do you read that, Jonathan? Okay, Dr. Nizar, because you're from Syria, so we'll go to... we've got him back. There's a problem with the sound quality. Jonathan, did you hear the question?
No, I didn't. I'm so sorry.
Okay, can you fix the sound quality, my producer? Go to Dr. Nizar. When you see how the West talks about the suffering in, for example, Israel at the moment, yet the same description did not follow the suffering in Gaza or Palestine, and certainly what Hafez al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad were, for example, doing, Sadanaya prison, the Tadmon massacre, for example. How do you see Western polity and their response to the suffering of the Syrian people for the best part of 6 decades?
Unfortunately, it's been there have been double standard policy from the Western policy regarding the Middle East. So unfortunately, some bloods are more precious than the other bloods. When it comes to the Israeli bloods, when October the 7th happened, immediately all the condemn against Hamas and the launch of this attack against what we call it
Gaza.
innocent Israeli, whereas the innocent Gazan people, more than 80,000, probably reaching 100,000 victims currently, nobody actually caring about them. The same actually applies to the Syrian bloods, because over 14 years, and despite red lines from Barack Obama administration about using chemical weapons, which actually meant green lights for other weapons. So basically, they were telling him, use any weapons you like, mass of destruction weapons, but do not use chemical. Actually, he understood that he used all weapons, and then he used the chemical weapons.
You're talking about
exactly. It was August 23rd, 2013, where the tragedy of Ghouta, the east of Ghouta, has happened, and more than 1,500 innocent people, mostly children, have suffocated to death from the use of chemical weapons. This was the red line of Obama. Unfortunately, they did not care about our bloods at all.
But can I ask you a broader question? I mean, you mentioned Tony Blair famously invited Bashar al-Assad and his wife to meet the late Queen Elizabeth II. There's a photograph of when he was invited to the United Kingdom. So that
2003, yes.
You remember that. Now, looking broader, it's very well pointing the finger at the Western nations, and Dr. Hanif earlier on said, well, that's what America does. It's an ideological state, and why do you blame it for doing what America wants to do? It wants to be the #1 player. But the Arab regimes, the Arab League, the GCC, the OIC, what have these regimes and the rulers done for the people of Syria or Palestine? Zero.
Zero. I agree. I totally agree with you. Unfortunately, because we have mostly dictatorship in all Arabic countries and possibly in Muslim countries, I cannot actually generalize, but mostly it is dictatorship. I can for sure say that in all Arabic countries it's dictatorship or inheritance. Basically in the Gulf it is inheritance. It comes from the father. Yeah, it's monarchy basically. It comes from the king father to the son, to the crown prince, etc. So basically they do not care about the interest of their people, and they do not care, and mostly they do not care about the interests of other Arabic countries' people, because you can see that when Trump actually visited the Gulf countries, you can see that trillions of dollars deals have been generously given, whereas when it comes to reconstruction of Syria, very little only being donated compared to the generous trillions
Let me just broaden this out then. So, because Professor Baring talked about the fact that Russia was because the Russians provided the air cover. and the Israelis knew not to touch. And then, of course, you say that because the weapons in Bashar al-Assad's hands were in safe hands, he was never going to fire a bullet in anger at Israel, because Israel did take many actions even before Russia evacuated its airbase and left Tartus. So the fact here is that Russia was content with Bashar al-Assad being in power. America was content with Bashar al-Assad being in power. Britain was content with. So it seems to me that the great powers between them said, well, quite frankly, the status quo helps us. We're quite happy with Sykes-Picot. The borders after Sir Mark Sykes and Laurent-Picot, when they drew them up in Belgravia and Paris about 100 odd years ago. So it seems that the world powers, from the time of Khrushchev taking Tartus, were quite content for this to happen. Now, where is the sense of agency amongst Muslims, amongst Arabs, against the local people to try and restore that representation in government, in ruling? In particular, in your mind, do you see hope? Because we've seen that the man who was in charge of the Tadmon massacre, or linked to it, is now part of the Syrian government under Jolani or Ahmed al-Shara. Is that right? I mean, I read something. I just want to verify that.
Sorry, which man? I couldn't get that.
No, there was something on social media. So I wanted to, if you're not aware, then I'll leave it. I'll just look it up in a moment. But the current government, do you see a clean break from the Iranian influence? Do you see a clean break from the Ba'athist influence? And more importantly, do you see a clean break from the American influence?
Yes, we are very much optimistic about our new government in the leadership of Ahmed al-Shara. I don't think it has any influence from Iranian or from al-Ba'ath party or from the old regime of Bashar Assad, and most importantly from Western influence. Probably there was a little influence from Qatar specifically and Saudi to put some people who they want. But I don't see that a big problem, because Qatar and Turkey, specifically, and Saudi Arabia have been helping very much actually, our revolution, and we do very much appreciate that, highly appreciated. So yes, in answer to your question, I don't see any much influence of Western influence or Bashar Assad influence.
Thank you.
However, in regard to your question about the other people of other Arabic countries, unfortunately, every Arabic country's people are busy with their own dictator, so they do not have the freedom of expressing their views or of expressing their brotherhood to ourselves. Basically, I am sure they have sympathy, they have the brotherhood feeling towards us, towards what we have suffered, as we do towards what they have suffered. But unfortunately, we've been all under dictatorship, and probably I would say Syria is one of the, I would say probably the first one to be liberated from dictatorship. I know Libya, they fall in the dictatorship, but actually until now it's not like completely clean. It's still conflict going on.
Khalifa Haftar and the UAE and America and Egypt controlling the east.
Nizar Tobe, you're a Syrian activist, and we had a good discussion yesterday. I think it made a lot of waves in terms of the topic of the discussion. Obviously, for now, I just want to talk about all the different countries that are involved. In terms of Syria, where does it stand? I mean, it cannot be seen as completely neutral, because surely it stands for the Palestinian cause, yet it doesn't support the Iranian cause. Tell us more about, say, Syria and Turkey. Where do you see those two countries standing?
So I think in the stance of Syria, I think we are totally against Iran, which does not mean necessarily that we are with Israel.
Yeah.
As I said yesterday, I reassured that Israel is our enemy, but Iran is 5 times our enemies, basically. Mm-hmm. So we are much more happy when we see Iran being defeated by Israel. And this actually was in the Quran 1400 years ago, descended to Muhammad when he said, "Ghulibat al-Rum," the Rum have been defeated. and in a few years they will defeat the Persians. And this is what has happened in reality. So the Muslims actually were happy when the Romans defeated the Persians, and we are happy now that when Israel and together with America is defeating Iranian regime. So basically we are very much happy because obviously, as you know, Iran has committed a lot of massacres, a lot of atrocities into our Syrian people throughout 14 years of our revolution. It has caused more than 1 million people killed. Half of the population are either misdisplaced or immigrated outside the country. So for the stand of Turkey, I think Turkey has been supporting us very much so during all these 14 years, and we very much appreciate Recep Tayyip Erdogan as the leader of Turkey, as he has been helping us all through until our liberation from this dictatorship. That was in the help and coordination of Qatar and Saudi Arabia. So I think Turkey is, there was actually, before you took over mass, there was actually a question whether Turkey actually is very much closely coordinating with the United States.
Yeah,
I don't think this is the case at all. There was actually many disagreements between Turkey and United States. At one stage, actually, America shut down one Bayraktar, one of these drones of Turkey over Syria, and always Turkey trying to solve their problems with the United States and with Russia also in Syria in diplomatic ways. And they've been actually very much successful in doing so. They did not have military conflict with Russia because despite many Russian influence inside Syria at the Bashar Assad time, they still managed actually to overthrow Assad. Of course, to help us to overthrow Assad.
Okay, I'll stop you there, Nizar. I will come back to you, I promise. I need to just get everybody involved. So just try and sort of, because we've got quite a few guests all at once. If I do interrupt, please forgive me. It's just so I can move the discussion a bit more forward. But I will come back to each of you. Nizar Tome, what do you say to what you've just heard from Kamal Hawash and also Ismail Patel? Remember, these two are giants in this country. You know, we see them standing up for Palestinian rights consistently over their whole entire life, and not just for Palestinians, but for also many people in the Middle East. When they say, look, we need to have a united front, and your view about Israel or Zionism, Iran and Iranianism, if that's the right term, being worse than Zionism, haven't they got a point? I mean, surely at this moment in time, you need to perhaps look at the bigger picture. Iran is not occupying Syrian land, and Israel is.
Yes.
It's not going to give it up.
Okay, so looking at the bigger picture, Iran has been lying because Iran has been using the Palestinian case as the chicken which lay golden eggs for Iran. This is what they've been using the Palestinian case. And to prove this, actually they've been, just to correct the numbers, you mentioned about 500,000, it's over 1 million people were killed by Bashar Assad and in support of the Iranian regime and Russia and all the other militia. So basically, Iran has been using this Palestinian case because of their political propaganda to actually extend and to make expansion to their dream. Their dream actually, and I am not sectarian, but their dream is called the Shia Crescent.
But Nizar Tobit, one second. Yeah. I want to bring to your attention the Yinon Plan, which was published in the Hebrew journal Kivunim in 1982. It's also been given a different term. Israel Shahak, a very famous academic in Israel, he wrote what Zionism really wants, or words to that impact. And he translated this weighty tome into to make sense of what it was saying. And it was saying it wanted, for Israel to survive, it had to turn the Middle East into smaller, sectarianly divided countries and have people fighting amongst each other, and then Israel would be the regional superpower that would dominate that whole area. We're seeing that happening right in front of our eyes. And sometimes, I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate, so nothing personal, but sometimes when people hear what you say, or views to that effect, they feel that this is what the Yunnan plan was all about, and you are making that come alive. Surely you don't want that to be the reality. Surely not.
No, surely I don't want that to be the reality. But if you look into history again, as I said yesterday, these actually, whatever you call it, sectarian, these people who are against us and who slaughtered us for over 14 years, they actually will not help to liberate Al-Aqsa or liberate Jerusalem. Throughout history, Salah ad-Din did not manage to liberate Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem until he actually until he finished totally the Fatimid dynasty in 1171, and then he managed to liberate Jerusalem in 1187.
Yeah.
If you look at Iran is occupying, it has occupied our land, it has occupied Syria for 14 years, it has occupied Iraq until now, it has occupied Lebanon, it has occupied Yemen, it has occupied Al-Ahwaz since 1926. So when they say it's not occupying, it is occupying. Also, it is occupying 3 islands of the UAE. It's called one Tanab, the small, the big Tanab, and Abu Musa. It's not 2 islands. So basically, the United States is using this Iran policy also to drain the Gulf states. Basically, they are draining their financial resources in order. They're telling them, we need to protect you, so let's put military bases in the Gulf. And also, they are selling them a lot of weapons.
Thank you,
so
Nizar. I'm going to just interject here, Dr. Nizar. For the benefit of our viewers, what facts do you bring to the table about the massacres that Iran did in Syria? In very brief, because I need to go to Jonathan and then back to Kamal and Dr. Ismail.
They've been helping the 4th Brigade led by Maher al-Assad, the brother of Bashar al-Assad. And this 4th Brigade have committed most of the massacres being committed over the Syrian lands. So basically from this Damascus suburb until Homs, until Hama, until Halab, until Daraa, on all this line, on all this vertical line, they've been actually committed massacres all over 14 years of our Syrian revolutions. We have actually uncounted number. Iran is lying, and we know that because they had this golden opportunity. They had the border of Israel next to them when they were occupying our land, Syria. Why they did not fight Israel? They did not liberate 1 square meter of the occupied land if they care this much about Palestine. They did not rocket 1 rocket at Israel when they were occupying our land. What is their excuses? It's their excuses because it's only they using the Palestinian.
Nizar, when did the Iranians occupy Syria?
All over this 14 years. Their forces have been in our land for 14 years, since 2011.
Okay.
They've been helping Bashar Assad to slaughter us.
Okay, thank you, Nizar, thank you. Listen, what Dr. Nizar says is fact. I mean, I wanted him to say it, but it's documented. You can do a Google search and you'll find it on leading news agencies, both in the Muslim world, not just in the West.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
This is Munzir Zamarkani, brother. Trying to just participate in your view. Usually I got a guest.
Oh, yes, you were a guest yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just watching your guests. I'm sorry to say that all your guests you're talking about Israel, we haven't seen them actually talking about the massacres happened in Syria for 14 years. Now they're trying to be like heroes trying to be like the voice of Muslims, speak about the Muslims of Palestine. Okay, we are so with the Palestinian people. No, we don't want people to lecture us how we
well, you are one family, aren't you? The Syrians and the Palestinians.
We are Bilad al-Sham. They are our
absolutely
brothers. Okay, here actually, when Iran involved since the revolution, this suspicious revolution in Iran. Tell me how many countries have been destroyed. I name it to you. I name it your guess. Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. Do you think this is good for Israel or bad for Israel? That's just very straightforward question. Destroying these 4 countries. I'm sorry, I'm being frustrated because what I have seen, what I'm listening from your guests, has made me really,
Okay, stay with us.
I want to ask a question to all your guests who are attacking Syrians for their position against Iran. Also, we lay the big ground. Israel is our enemy. Iran is our enemy. No difference. But I want to tell you and ask one very, very important question.
Okay, Professor, can I just pause you? Professor, I'm going to pause you. I want you to stay with me on this. Don't go anywhere because I want your contribution. Dr. Al-Zamalkani, I hope you're still there. The real enemy is Israel. I mean, Kamal is absolutely right, isn't it? That is you cannot say under any circumstances that the Iranians are 5 times worse than the Zionists, no matter what they do. Isn't that correct? I mean, I'm just posing the question. That's not my view.
I never disputed that. Israel is our enemy. We never disputed that. Iran also is our enemy. But I want to ask the gentleman over there.
It's Dr. Kamal Hawash, so please,
yes,
you can address him.
The gentleman, he's one of my friends. Since the revolution, that suspicious revolution in Iran came to the region, how many countries was destroyed? I will remind him. Started from Iraq, then Syria, actually Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen. Destroying these countries by Iran was good for Israel or bad for Israel? This is very important things they have to think about it. And yes, Zionist is an enemy, but it's not like Safavid or this. I mean, it's more than. I mean, we can't say more or less or less. Both of them are our enemies. Both of them have inflicted a lot of crimes in our region. But if you want to talk about about numbers, about who killed more, no, Iran killed more than Israel. Of course, I'm not justifying. Far more. If you wanna tell you how many, I tell you something. I ask you, my friend, to go and read about what Iran did in Iraq. Forget about Syria. We are Syrians. Maybe we say we are biased to Syria. Okay, let's not speak about Syria. Speak about Iraq. See how many women have raped in Iraq. They say they are Muslims. They rape Muslims women in Iraq. Don't talk about Syria, just about Iraq. But if you want to put how many people Iran has killed in the region, not less than 5 million people. It's far more. It's over the population of Palestine. I'm still telling you, Israel in the broad line is our enemy, and Iran is our enemy. So maybe I disagree with my brother. Brother Nizar 5 times. No, both of them are our enemies, and we wish to see the date of their destruction for both of them. So because all of them are raw states, both of them they're destabilizing the region. And I want to mention very, very quick things. I want to leave space for people who want to make call.
Okay. Well,
the difference between Israel and Iran is very big difference.
Well, thank you.
I mentioned this in my book, and I wrote an article about. I told you maybe yesterday, religion for the sake of realism.
Yeah.
Iran penetrated our societies. Before the revolution, this suspicious revolution, there was nothing in our area called Sunni and Shia. When the Iran revolution came, all our societies have been divided between Sunni and Shia. Before that wasn't nothing. All the Syrians were united. All the Lebanese were united.
Can I just say...
Politically, just let me finish this. I'm finishing. Yeah, very quickly. This division has been brought by Iran. Both Syria and they penetrated our society. In Yemen, the same. In Syria, the same. In Iraq, the same. All of these made by Iran, because Iran came on sectarian view, not like Israel. Israel came in on as an enemy for the country. No, Iran is an enemy from inside, destroying the society. But this is a difference between. I need to ask you explaining more, but there's no time.
Okay, no, that's fine.
The
Listen.
last thing. Iran now attacking. Iran now is attacking Israel. Not
Okay.
because of Palestinians. The Palestinians have been suffering
Okay,
for 24 months.
Thank you, Professor. I appreciate that. I've got a caller. A sister's calling from London. Please make your point. I believe you're from a Turkish background. What are people in Turkey saying?
Assalamu alaikum, brother, and thank you very much for holding such a great discussion and helping everyone to understand what is actually happening. And thank you also for giving me this opportunity. I don't like to waste the time, so I get directly to my point.
Please.
What I would like to say is, as a Turkish person, we have also suffered from these wars in the Middle East. When the war happened in Syria, we had nearly 4 million Syrian refugees in our country suddenly entering, and it had a massive influence on our economy. And not just that, but also culturally. With that being said, with the speakers on the panel, I do not agree that I should support Iran right now, because I see Iran as equal to Israel, because Iran has, over the years, over 40 years, has contributed to more and more destruction in the Middle East, because they have been keep scratching the issue, saying that we will destroy Israel, we will destroy everyone. And, you know, earlier on, something was said like, Iran has never occupied a land. Yes, they did. Through their proxy leaders, they have occupied land. You don't have to occupy a land physically, but you can dominate it. We as Turkish people have suffered a lot. And I think with diplomacy and with a common language in the Muslim world, we can get further. And I think, and I stand firmly behind the Syrian people who right now do not want to be involved into these discussions, because they have been seriously hurt. In Turkey, I have witnessed people without limbs, women being raped, came over with massive traumas. And this is something that the Muslim world has to also think about. Yes,
Sister,
our common enemy is Israel.
Sister,
yes,
can I just jump in? What do you say when we talk about justice? Because Kamal Hawash is right. International law has been repeatedly flouted by Israel, and the people in the Middle East need to look at about where the concept of justice lies in all of this. How do you think the Syrians need to look at the justice element and say, well, this is wrong, what's going on with Iran, regardless of what happened to us, because we stand for justice, and justice deems that you can't just attack a sovereign country because you feel at some point in future they may be a threat. If that's the case, that's the law of the jungle. Sister, over to you.
Yes. This is exactly like what I'm trying to say. There has to be some justice. The Syrian people, I support them firmly right now, because if they want to withhold themselves from this conflict of Israel and Iran, they have my full support, because as a Turkish person,
Okay.
I have witnessed and seen many traumatized Syrian people, refugees, being helpless. In a country, in Turkey, yes, we have the common religion, but a complete different structure, complete different nation, complete different culture. They had to adapt to all this. And as a Turkish person, I think like a Syrian person, and I joined Dr. Nizar in saying I would like to see them both as my enemies.
And are you happy with the role President Erdogan has taken?
Oh, yes, definitely, because President Erdogan has always been on the side of diplomacy. This is how he helped the Syrian people in 14 years, because it would have been very easy for the Turkish army just to walk in Syria and destroy everything, like a Western army would have done. But President Erdogan chose diplomacy over a further war. So in 14 years, he brought the diplomacy into international community to the standard that they would accept a new democratic Syria, and he has done it. Well done to him.
Sister, thank you so much for your very valuable, very well thought contribution. I appreciate you calling in. And listen, if anybody else wants to give me a call and join into this debate or discussion with a question, then please do so. Nizar Tobe, some really good contributions really from callers and also from fellow panelists. What do you think is going to happen next? Let's shift away whether you should support Iran or not. What do you think, as somebody from the Middle East, an observer of Middle Eastern politics, I know you're a Syrian activist, so you do know politics. What do you think will likely happen? Iran is not going to lose this. Israel's not going to win this. And it's likely Iran will probably go towards getting that nuclear weapon. Or am I just, in cloud cuckoo land, the regime's going to fall? What do you think?
So if I'll answer your question, but just very much briefly, I'll comment about few words being actually mentioned.
Please, briefly. Yeah.
Very briefly. So they mentioned about justice for Iran, that it's been attacked by Israel and this is not unlawful. Where is this justice when we have been attacked for over 14 years and we lost over 1 million, which Dr. Kamal actually does not recognize these numbers.
Sorry. Nizar, I've got to be fair to Dr. Kamal. He is an academic of real renown, so I need to step in. He's not talking about. He said your figure, or I think Dr. Al-Zamrokani mentioned 5 million, and he said I've not. And I agree with Dr. Kamal. I've not seen that figure. So.
It's an estimation, but it's okay. At least it's in millions. It's not 1 million, because 1 million in Syria, over 1 million, and over 1 million in Iraq. So it is a few millions in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Syria. So anyway, I will not argue about big numbers. Okay. The point is, where is this justice have been when Iran have caused all these damages to these Arabic countries and Muslim countries, and they have actually made it ruins? Is this to the interest of Israel or to the interest of the Arabic countries? Of course, it is to the interest of Israel. So when Iran is actually replying to Israel, yesterday they have killed one entire Palestinian family consistent of parents and 3 children. They are replying randomly. They are not replying properly. I wish they do reply. You ask me whether I will be happy. I will be very much happy, because it's 2 enemies. The more damage they cause to each other, the more happier I would be. So basically, in answer to your question, you mentioned how is the
what do you think? Let's put your Syrian hat to one side. Think about, as an observer of what's been going on, what do you think is realistically going to happen?
Yeah, realistically, I think no actually side will win completely, which fair to say that, because Iran is a big country and Israel is supported by major countries, including USA and the West. So it is unlikely either of them will win completely or either of them will lose completely. This is very much excluded scenarios. Therefore, it will continue to be, but I think the more like the damages will be more on the Iranian side, because this is facts. Israel is much stronger and it's supported by the very huge world forces. So Israel will cause more damage to Iran than Iran will cause more damage to Israel. So politically, I think Syria in this time will rise as major power in the region, because we have actually managed to escape 14 years of this war through our revolution. We have actually managed to fight the major forces of the world, including Russia. Even Russia was defeated by our forces, including Iran, including Hezbollah, including all the militia. And we have now few very good friends, including Turkey, which is one of the major army of the world. So it is the second strongest in the NATO.
Dr. Nizar Tobe's figures are correct. But it was a huge number. Yeah, huge number. Surely you can understand. You can't be that cold to say to Dr. Nizar, well, you're talking nonsense there. I mean, he's a Syrian. He's a Syrian activist. He's seen the images. His family have been through the terror that Iran and its proxies were having in Syria. Can you see where they're coming from?
Okay. Yeah, there are some grievances, but who's got more grievances?
Is it some?
Iran?
Is it some, Ali, or aren't these grievances more than some? I mean, we're talking nearly 1 million people.
May I just finish my point,
Please.
and then you can ask me the question.
Okay.
Please. I just want to say that Iran has more grievances as they have been under an 8-year war, supported by the West, provided by the West, and no Muslim nation was there to support them. They all were. Everyone was against Iran. They supported Saddam, who again attacked Iran, just like Israel has done. Iran has been under sanctions. Iran has hostile nations because someone mentioned sectarianism, where we've got Sunni and Shia nations. Iran is the only leading Shia nation, where the rest are all Sunnis.
Ali, can I just say, isn't the problem that no Muslim nation stands with Iran? Because after the revolution in 1979, when Khomeini took power, the first thing he did was try and export his brand of revolution to other Muslim countries to overthrow their governments, ostensibly Sunni Muslim governments. And then
that's one way to look at it, but that's not the case.
Well, you can't say it's not the case. I mean, there are publications, I've read those publications, where Khomeini rails against the Wahhabis, as he terms them, and very, very disparaging words against figures that Sunni Muslims take to be, their heroes and icons, and their faith and how they do things. Now, he may have had his reasons. Okay, he did that, or maybe it was misinterpreted, right? But ostensibly, Iran for many, many years did not try to unite with the rest of the Muslim world. That's the charge. That's why there's no Muslim nation backing them. And instead, when Saddam Hussein was overthrown in Iraq, a golden opportunity in a country which had more Shias than they had Sunnis, but the Sunnis had been ruling the country under Saddam, instead of uniting the country or helping that country heal, it caused sectarian divisions by having Shia groups and militias and everything else that happened, which caused the rise of ISIS, and then it went into Syria, and then obviously we've seen the impacts it's had on Lebanon as well.
That's your way of your version.
Well, you tell me what you think happened.
That's not the case.
Tell me.
ISIS, Daesh, FSA, all these other hundreds of groups, Jabhat al-Nusra, whatever, they all came, and who did they kill? Muslims. Right? But you still seem to find a way to blame Iran for this. Iran had no part of this. Iran was under attack for 8 years by Sunni Saddam, but obviously he also attacked his own people. I mean, in 1988, he did not attack the Marsh Arabs and then gassed the Kurds in Halabja. And,
he was as brutal as they come. There's no doubt. He was very brutal.
Of course, right? But during that 8-year war, where you're saying that Iran didn't support as a Muslim nation, how could it when it was under war itself? And what Muslim country supported Iran against an aggressor? So let me turn it back on you and say that.
Okay, listen, you make a very fair point. Look, I've got my own views. These aren't my views. I just try and give different perspectives to spark a debate and discussion so that viewers are better informed and they can make their own minds up. I think you make a very valid point. I mean, Saddam Hussein was an absolutely brutal dictator, no doubt about it. What he did was sadistic at times, and how he treated the Marsh Arabs, the Shia Marsh Arabs in the south, was awful. How he murdered the Kurds in the north, who happened to be fellow Sunni Muslims, had no had no parallel. He used chemical weapons on these people. So a lot of bloodletting in that region, and perhaps Iran has been misunderstood. I said, look, the publications may have been misunderstood, misinterpreted, who knows, right? And I know more recently Iran has tried to mend its relations with major leading Sunni powers, which led Saudi Arabia to condemn the attack on Iran. Listen, stay online. Nizar Tobe, I think Ali obviously has made his point in a much more respectful and dignified way, although he doesn't shy away from his points. But you think he's obviously on the wrong path there. But generally speaking, people like Ali represent a lot of the Muslim world opinion.
Unfortunately, Ali is trying to cover up his actually sectarian likeness of likelihood by saying that he is half-half through his family. However, he showed that.
But we don't know that, Nizar. We don't know that. We can't speculate. Let's just take his word for it, because he's called in good faith.
Take his words.
Yeah.
So you can see very much the double standard of his saying, of his words, by comparing how he compares Saddam, how much brutal and dictator, which I agree with that. But when it comes to Bashar al-Assad, he said how good man he was. This is very much double standard. This is the difference between us and them. This is the big difference. We don't look at Saddam as a good man only because he was Sunni. We look at him as dictator and brutal man, regardless of his ethnic or sectarian background. Whereas he looks at Bashar al-Assad only because he was Alawite and he support him. So I wish he would be on Judgment Day with Bashar al-Assad, inshallah.
Hey, listen, so Ali, I think you did say, Ali, that Bashar was better, I suppose, or you'd support. I mean, I do find that quite offensive, because Bashar al-Assad it's widely accepted, even his own regime apparatus admitted to the brutalness of Bashar al-Assad.
Can I give you some figures, Mas? Can I give you some figures? No, because they say Bashar al-Assad actually was in the axis of resistance. This axis of resistance, this big lie, has actually have killed from Palestinians 10 times what Israel has killed from 1948 until now.
I'll just stop. I'll just pause you there. We've got a minute or so left. Ali, final word to you, and then I'm going to wrap this up. You cannot say you would support Assad.
I don't, right? So this is why I believe Dr. Nizar is just talking on emotion, and from
he did say
the chat we just had. I don't.
He did say that, but okay, he can take it back. He's taking it back. Go for it. I'm pleased you're taking it back.
He does praise Salah, right? Is he really an Alawite? He may consider himself an Alawite, but there are different forms of Alawite. And he was married to a Sunni. Asma al-Assad is a Sunni. I've seen Bashar al-Assad pray. He prays the Sunni way with the hands folded and that. And, he's done many wrongs. Nobody's perfect. None of us are masoom. Right?
Okay, Ali, I'll leave you there. Look, thank you so much for calling in. I'm only cutting it because of we're getting to the end. Dr. Nizar, thank you so much for joining us. It's the end of the debate. Look, we'll continue this debate and much more during the week. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been Maz Patel. This has been Islam Channel, and I'll see you all very soon.